Mouthwashes are antibacterial, but what they do is they then kill off some of the good bacteria, and if you have a dry mouth, they are then setting you up for the bad ones to overrun. So this is not the same as mouthwash, okay? These are, and you'll see them on the label, they're designed for dry mouth because they create this like moisture coating to combat the dry mouth.
Hi, welcome to the Judy Terrell Show, where I explore topics intended to optimize every body 50, 60, 70, and above.
We have multiple microbiomes in our body, and a big one that everybody is aware of right now is our gut microbiome, our colon, and the trillions of microorganisms that live there, and they live in a happy balance, and everything is good, and if they're not in a happy balance, then things are very bad, not just in the gut, but throughout your whole body. Well, similarly, we have an oral microbiome, and it is even equally important, and when it goes off, then we can have a host of problems, not only through the rest of our body, because everything comes through our mouth, and if our oral microbiome is not balanced and healthy, then things that are not supposed to get through that first gateway do get through. But even more important than that, possibly, or evenly important, is if your oral microbiome is thrown off, then you're going to struggle with teeth decay and gum disease. And I am shooting this video to try and educate two populations. One, youth that are using sports products, and fast forward to people my age, in their 50s plus, I'm 63, who have a oral microbiome that's thrown off and are in two categories. One, we're just aging, and that is a problem now for our teeth and our gums. And two, you're in my category. I'm an athletic 63-year-old, and breathing through my mouth for hours a day as part of my training. And this is also part for the younger population. When we're athletic, we are breathing through our mouths, and that breathing through the mouth creates what's called dry mouth, and that is a very significant factor in disrupting the oral microbiome. All right. So I want to talk about the oral microbiome a little bit and what can throw it off. And then I'm going to tell you what to do to avoid what I have recently experienced. And that is thousands of dollars of laser surgeries to fix my periodontal disease and my gum gingivitis. Because when your oral bacteria is thrown off, infections, bacterias, yeast, funguses, all sorts of pathogens, biofilms can be created in your mouth. And even though you're like me and I don't eat a high refined carbohydrate diet at all, you can still have your microbiome of your oral microbiome be thrown off because of a dry mouth. And some of you watching this maybe are not athletic, but have been kind of told by your dentist possibly, if you're breathing through your mouth at night, this is a big one too, that itself can throw off the oral microbiome. All right. So now the oral microbiome likes a neutral pH, maybe slightly alkaline. It does not thrive on an acidic pH. Okay. So breathing through your mouth, either at night or because you're athletic, or even if you're somebody who's regularly walking, when we're breathing through our mouths a lot, that is going to disrupt because it dries up the saliva. And saliva is one of our antimicrobial, systems in our body to keep disease out of our mouth. And then, of course, those from going down further into the digestive system and then into the bloodstream and then out through the rest of your body. So you can see where this oral microbiome is like the gateway, and it's really important, not just for your teeth and gums, but for your whole body. But I'm specifically addressing teeth and gums in this video. So what I experience as a Ironman level athlete, I am working out hours a day, sometimes many hours a day as part of my training, breathing through my mouth. And so that created a dry mouth, a lower saliva content, and then an open opportunity for pathogens to, to kind of overrun in your mouth, right? Now, that's one thing. I'm going to tell you what to do about that in just a second, but now let's add insult to injury. If you have a dry mouth and light saliva and, a kind of seething potential mess with your oral microbiome, If you now combine that with drinking things or eating things that are high acidic, that have acids in them, for instance, lemon water, which is a big one for people who are trying to be healthy. It's acidic. Citric acid added to sports drinks, all right, that's acidic. And if you look on labels, like I'm going to give you some names here. I have them written down here. Citric acid, malic acid, phosphoric acid. Those are all things that are added to other products that you might not be paying attention to that can throw the natural pH of your mouth off. So we want to, and now if you have a dry mouth and then you're also having an acidic mouth, that is a 1-2 punch to the oral health of your gums and the teeth decay, okay? Because acidic things will not only create gum disease because it's creating a microbiome in your mouth, but it's also decaying teeth enamel, all right? So there's two things that are happening there. And then if you combine those two things with sugary things, okay? Even if it's natural sugar, even if it's like apple juice, okay? Or pomegranate juice. These now, and if you're an athlete and you're breathing through your mouth, but now you're taking in electrolyte drinks that have citric acid in them, or you're eating gels and in particular gummy things like the beans and the blocks and things like that, or you're drinking Gatorade and these other drinks that are, they're good for replacing electrolytes and carbohydrate for your sport activity, but they are coating your mouth with sugars. And now if you've got an acidic mouth, because you're also taking in acidic things, and then you've got a dry mouth where your saliva is reduced, and that's your natural combating against pathogens growing in your gums and in your oral, orifice. Now you got a 1-2-3 punch degrading mouth health. Okay, that is what I experience. I'm not big on, sugary products when I'm doing my workouts. I'm very careful about that, to go to the lowest sugar things. But, you still have to take in carbohydrate if you're an athlete and you're doing a sport, especially an endurance sport. And if you're not an athlete and you're eating things that have like sugars, refined sugars, white flours, gummy type things that stick on your teeth, raisins, which again, people think are healthy, gummy vitamins, these things, they're sticking to your teeth, getting down into the gums as you're chewing them, and then you add the low pH, you add the dry mouth, and now you've got the perfect storm for periodontal disease. Now, if you are young, you're not experiencing this. You may be getting higher cavity amounts than your friends, okay? Or if you have grandchildren or children who are athletic and you're watching this video, you want to, be aware of this so you can help to guide them. And that's from a preventative point of view. But if you're over 50 and you're getting root canals and you're getting extractions and you're being evaluated and you're finding that you're having gingivitis or periodontal disease, then you are somebody who really wants to pay attention to what I'm going to tell you to do next, okay? All right, so that's the setup. These are the typical scenarios of which they occur. And like I'm using myself as an example, you can be very healthy. I do not eat a lot of sugary foods, okay, or highly processed carbs. Even as an athlete, I'm very careful about those products, but my dry mouth and then having acids in products that I'm using for hydration and in other foods, citric acid, malic acid, and phosphoric acid are in like a lot of things. So start looking at your labels. So dry mouth and then acidic pH in the dry mouth is what has caused my issues. All right, you got the scenario. Now let's talk about what to do about it. All right, so I've got these two things on my shelf, and this is why I'm in my bathroom. All right, there's 3 products that you would be advised to use, okay, to try and help combat this. The first one are rinses, okay, and these are the 2 that are most highly recommended, the ACT and the Biotine. The Biotine is apparently the one that's most recommended by dentists, but when I do the analysis of the ingredients, there's things in here that I don't like that the ACT doesn't have. So I'm recommending this one. They have, so what you do to use them is after you brush your teeth, You would then use this rinse, swish it around, about a minute to 3 minutes, depending on your time, and then spit it out. And then what this does is it creates they've got different ingredients in them that create like a little bit of a moisture barrier, so that even if you're breathing through your mouth, it's going to take a longer time to get as dry as it would if you didn't use these rinses. Now, I want to say something about these rinses. These are not mouthwashes. Mouthwashes are antibacterial, but what they do is they then kill off some of the good bacteria, and if you have a dry mouth, they are then setting you up for the bad ones to overrun. So this is not the same as mouthwash, okay? These are, and you'll see them on the label, they're designed for dry mouth because they create this like moisture coating to combat the dry mouth, okay? So these are very important. I would recommend, if you know you're a mouth breather at night, to use this at night before after you brush your teeth, before you go to bed. And another thing, if you are a mouth breather and you know this at night, you can buy online mouth tape that has a little slit in it. It just helps to keep your mouth closed so that you're minimizing the overnight dry mouth and the bacterial overgrowth that can happen, for the 6 to 10 hours that you might be sleeping, okay? So the rinses, and then there are sprays that you can use during the day. I don't have them here to show you. If you go online and Google or go on Amazon or wherever you buy things from, dry mouth sprays, you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't use them because I just find them to be inconvenient. I don't use them. I have them and then I never pay attention to using them. So they're kind of like, if you're not going to use them, they're not going to help you. But if you think you might use them, that might be a thing to do, because you're going to do these rinses in the morning after you brush your teeth and at night after you brush your teeth. And then if you have the sprays through the day, if you talk a lot, if you're a teacher, you are also mouth breathing, someone who presents a lot, just somebody who has a talking career. And if you're an athlete, the sprays might help too. But again, they're inconvenient to use as you're doing activity when you would most need them. So we've got the rinses, which I advocate, the sprays, which you could try. And then the third thing that you want to do are these dry mouth melts, they're called. This is Xylomelt. And basically, you put this in your mouth. I don't know if you can see this. And one side, you put it up against a molar and it sticks on there. And then it's just moisturizing your mouth. And I have found these to be very helpful for when I'm doing my workouts, okay? Because now I'm keeping a little bit more moisture in my mouth. And even though I'm mouth breathing, they're kind of countering each other, all right? Now, those are the products. And you can use these. There isn't a dosage amount that's too high that can cause problems. The more you are mouth breathing during the day, the more you can use these. Higher level versus somebody who's not as much might use 1 or 2 for the day. You might use more. The dosage is dependent on your dry mouth symptoms and conditions. Now, those are products to use and very important. But what you also want to do is you want to take a look at your drinks, and you want to make sure that you're drinking things that don't further create a acid environment, okay? That you're going to be promoting more of a neutral pH. So what are the things to drink for that? Plain water, distilled water. Now, if you're like me, I can only drink so much of that. I want some flavor. So one of the things I have found to do is and this is just a little container. You can buy ginger water, like shots. These are in the grocery store now. And then I add, like maybe a quarter of this into a liter bottle of water, or my, water bottle, my Stanley or whatever. And now I'm getting some taste, but ginger is a natural antimicrobial that's going to kill off some of the bad ones, but not overrun and kill off all the good ones too, right? So now we're combining a product that you're using to keep your mouth moist. And if you don't want to use the tabs, then just making sure that you're, as you're speaking, that you're actually taking sips of water so that you're keeping your own hydration in your mouth. The ginger might make you do that more because it has some flavor to it. And then you're getting the added benefit of the antimicrobial aspects of the ginger. People ask me a lot about sparkling water. Sparkling water is still approved as long as it doesn't have acids in them, citric acid, malic acid, or flavorings, right? You want to stay away from the citric flavorings too. But if it's a little bit less ideal, the sparkling waters or the seltzers, than the plain water. But I myself are using the seltzers because I like it. And again, it's like one step away from the better ones, as long as you're not getting the ones with the lemon and the citrus flavors, okay? And that it doesn't list citric or malic acid in the ingredient panel. Now, the other thing is, electrolyte products. I'm a big one now of making my own DIY electrolytes with, I use ginger, I use coconut water for a little bit of sweetener and to absorb the electrolytes. I'm using either pomegranate juice or tart cherry juice, but a very small amount just to kind of color it. I've done another video on make your own electrolyte drink, but you can also use electrolytes drinks, but you want to find ones that do not have citric acid in them. Or if you are using ones that have those acids in them, then make sure that for every, sip that you're taking or you're drinking the electrolyte drink, you're following that up with plain water just to rinse out your mouth. Okay? So we're minimizing the damage there. Now, by far, the bigger damage is eating the sugary sweet things. And so when it comes to athletic fueling, it's hard to avoid them. But what I'm going to say is do not use the gummies, okay? And if you're not an athlete, I do not recommend gummy vitamins and supplements if you have a dry mouth and a microbiome that, an oral microbiome that is, how do you know if yours isn't ideal? Bad breath, gums that bleed, excessive calories, and then your dentist is telling you that you are having, gingivitis or periodontal, the beginnings of periodontal disease. So you, my friend, would be well suited to listen to my advice preventatively before you get to the point where I got to, where I had to actually have some, treatments for them that are not cheap. So you want to avoid the gummy things that stick on your mouth. And like I said, even raisins and dried fruit, which people are using as healthy alternatives to refined sugars, the things that stick in your teeth are the worst. And, white flour sugar products as well. So if you are using any of those things, make it a practice that when you're done eating them, that you literally rinse your mouth out with plain water, or that you are going and brushing your teeth right afterwards, if that is an option, just to get this sugar coating and the things that get down into under the gum line, if that's now combined with an acidic mouth and a dry mouth. All right, really important. It's not getting enough attention right now, but I have a lot of clients that are getting teeth extractions and root canals once they're over 50 and into their early 60s. And if you are somebody who is having that happen, these tips will help you. And if you're somebody in your 50s yet or 40s, 20s even, teens probably would be the best place. Take heed of what I'm saying so that you are preventing this from happening and developing some good oral practices before it even, manifests in your mouth. All right, buddy. Pleasure. I hope you're taking some tidbits from this. And if lifestyle, medicine, and everyday habit patterns are things that you are looking to get information about, to refine and make yourself the healthiest you can be, both preventatively and if you've already, been diagnosed with, various things that are related to lifestyle practices, then I am the person you want to follow me and just stay up to date on what I'm putting out. Okay, till another video.
And if you'd like to have access to some of my additional resources, I can be found at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on my website, www.judyterrell.com.